good afternoon. This is U.S. Immigration Attorney Sharifa Tharpe. I'm here live to take your U.S. immigration related questions. Start putting your questions in the comments. So as soon as I'm finished with what I have to talk about, we can get straight to your questions. Now, I just wanted to talk to you about some recent changes that I saw, actually, some proposed changes by the president. Hi there. So the president, and this is a focus on asylum. So right now, and it's particularly in the immigration court, right? So does not necessarily include the affirmative asylum. So when you're applying for asylum, you have two ways that you can apply for the asylum. So you have to be here in the US, and if you enter the country and you are afraid to return to your country, you qualify for the other types of criteria under asylum, you can apply for what's called affirmative asylum. And with that one, you're able to submit this to the USCIS, and then the USCIS will process your asylum application. They'll schedule your interview with an asylum officer, and they will, decide whether you qualify. Now, that's affirmative. Then you have the defensive asylum. So, for example, many individuals who came through the border, they may have gone through initial screening for asylum at the border. And the officer may have determined that, okay, well, they can go through the court system. They won't come to a conclusion. They may find that there is a credible fear, so they make a credible fear determination, and they don't make a final decision, but then they say, okay, you can go ahead and go through the court system in order to determine whether you qualify for asylum. And so those individuals who came in, they get permission to be here. Many people, though, they get permission, and I think a large part of the frustration is they get permission to come in, and they're told, make sure you apply for asylum before the year is up. But they're not given any additional guidance, and they're not given the ability to get the work permit or anything. They're just told, and sometimes some of them are given notices to appear, or they're told to check in. But those individuals, if they're not paroled, if they're not granted parole, they are given a notice to appear eventually, and they're sent to immigration court, where they have to then use asylum as a defense to the deportation. Because once you get called to the court, and if you can't show that you qualify for relief, they are going to order deportation. So that's the difference between affirmative asylum and defensive asylum. So in this case, where Biden is proposing measures through the court system to try to reduce it to 6 months, they're only focusing on those who have recently arrived through the border. Right now, there are millions of cases pending in the immigration court alone, in the immigration court system. And so they're trying to reduce processing times in the immigration court, by either determining within 6 months whether this individual should get asylum or be removed from the United States. So this is where the change is coming in. In another, on the other side, I have been seeing that there are rumblings going on. So in the news, the aides to Trump they're all working to determine how, if President Trump should win the election, how are they going to jump through hurdles, or jump over hurdles, to be able to maximize the number of people that are going to be deported, and to be able to implement smoothly their immigration policy with very little resistance. Because during the Trump administration, a big part of a big obstacle to his immigration policies were the fight that he got. And because of that, a lot of the scarier policies. For example, he came in, he wanted to terminate TPS. He tried to terminate TPS for a number of countries where they had it for decades. Trump came in and he tried to terminate DACA, and lawsuits is what stopped that from happening. Lawsuits kept TPS, kept DACA in place. And so, there, what I am reading is that he now has experts, aides, supporters coming together to work on a plan to make sure that it's as soon as he gets in, he can make it as successful as possible with very little resistance. And once again, the basic gist of his plan is to conduct mass deportations. To him, he has no limits. He hasn't stated any exceptions, really. I mean, naturally, those who qualify for immigration benefits under the law will naturally be protected from deportation. However, those who are undocumented with no showing that they qualify for any kind of immigration benefits. So that means if you are a sitting duck, you have not submitted or you don't have anything pending, it means that you are at a much higher risk of being drawn into something like that. And that's if this president wins. But as an attorney, I always think about the risk, and I always think a plan for worst case scenarios. Even though the hope and prayer is that we have good policies in place and that the worst case scenario does not happen. But in his vision and in his plan, it's really to do, and he has described this as it's going to be the biggest enforcement of immigration policies against undocumented immigrants in history. So that should tell you what that could look like. If they're planning to do mass deportations quickly. We're a few months out from the election, and if you're listening to me, you are a U.S. citizen, and you know what to do. You know that you have to use your conscience, use your judgment to determine what is best. Because that's how we're going to prevail, and that's how we did prevail in 2020, by the way. There were naysayers saying it's not going to happen. He's going to win again, and he did not. So we can do the right thing again. So that's reaching out, appealing to those of you who are citizens who can participate. Do not step away from participating in this, because if you do not participate in this process, that's basically one vote for him, for Trump. It's one vote, right? For every person that decides that they're not going to participate and vote against the wrong that could be coming, that's one vote for Trump. So don't think you're foregoing anything or you're just stepping back. It's not going to affect anything. If you don't vote and this person wins, it's as good as your non-participation was a vote for Trump. So let that sink in. So now that I've told you about, just the various immigration policy issues and updates that I'm hearing, I want to answer your questions. So I'm going to go through quickly and answer those questions. I see the answers coming in quickly, so let me go ahead and answer. Can you travel with your T status? Yes, it's possible to travel. You have to apply for a travel document, though. And keep in mind that even though I said it's possible, I still work on this on a case by case basis. It's going to depend on what's going on right now. What are the policies right now? They do allow T status holders to travel on the travel document. However, if they change that policy, I want to be able to update my clients about that. So it's very important. If you have an attorney, talk to the attorney, or get legal advice before you actually travel. Can an asylee travel to Puerto Rico? So Puerto Rico is considered part of the U.S. So it's a territory of the U.S. So if you don't need to have a visa to show you're entering. If you have your work permit, your identification is as good as traveling in the United States. One thought, though, that I would like to just tell you about is I say just be cautious about traveling off the country, the mainland. It's possible. But the worst case scenarios is somehow if your plane gets rerouted to another country for some reason or the other. I mean, of course, that's going to be rare, but if it just so happens that is what happens to you, you could end up stuck in another country and unable to re-enter the US. So just be mindful of that. Do not take flights that are going to connect in other countries and then go back. So for example, don't take a flight that's going to stop in Jamaica before it goes on to Puerto Rico. It needs to be a direct flight, and you need to just take into consideration the risk involved. But this is where I say to mitigate that risk, apply for a travel document. So if you are an asylee, yes, you may, and in this case, you may have to state and country outside of the U.S. where you need a travel document. But if at all possible, make sure that you have a travel document in case you do end up in another country. You can get back in with that travel document. You don't have to go through a lot. And keep in mind that the immigration system is so inundated that if something goes wrong, it could mean months or years trying to fix it. All right, I love your lipstick color. Can you please tell me the brand? It's Sephora. So I think I bought every color except for crazy colors, like black or anything like that. But I think I have every shade of red, and it's Sephora. It's really good. How to apply for PR? I think that's permanent resident. So it's going to depend on whether you qualify. There's so many ways. One thing to note is there are over 21 ways, over 21, so more than 21 ways to get your green card, your permanent resident. So it all depends on your facts here. Can you help me get school admission acceptance letter and get me the visa? So I don't. So with the admission, that's you have to first get admitted, and so immigration attorneys don't help you get admitted to the school. The school then issues an I-20, and then you can use that for the visa. So it's the visa part that I would assist with, but not the acceptance to school. I want to relocate it. Whether you can do that depends on where you are, what's your current status. Hi there. Good. I think it might be evening where you are. How much time it takes to apply for guardianship for a U.S. born kid who is staying. So we don't do guardianship. You'd have to talk to an estate planning attorney or a family attorney. If I came to the US on a tourist visa, got married, went back to my home country, then came back a few months later, will that be a problem? So I wouldn't be able to tell you if it's a problem. This is where the consultation is very important. That is extremely general. Will it be a problem for what? Are you applying for your green card? Are you just wanting to come back and visit and you're worried about the short period between when you were here in the US and coming back? So it's going to depend. Whether it's going to be a problem is going to be dependent on the facts here. I received a notice for my employment authorization document on April 19th, which says that the EA card arrives in 2 weeks, but it's 1 month now, and I didn't get it. So contact the immigration service to make sure that they have the right address. make sure it was sent to the right address. But that's all you can do at this point is see if you gave the wrong address, you're going to have to, either way, you're going to have to apply for a replacement if it does not come, or they can't find it. And in that case, where you apply for the replacement, it may take some months again to get it back, unfortunately. How long do you have to be in the US before you can file for the EB3 visa? So there's no real timeline. However, keep in mind that there's what's called the 90-day rule. And that rule states that, if there's any move towards getting married, filing any papers, or working within the first 90 days of your arrival in the US on a visitor's visa, then it can lead to a determination of fraud or misrepresentation. And I know you must be thinking, like, how do you jump from somebody trying to work or file their papers within 90 days to a fraud? And the reason is, when you enter the US on a visa, there is a presumption that you're representing to immigration that you are entering for the sole purpose of visiting and not working, or trying to stay here permanently. And so there's this rule, the 90-day rule, that says if you do any of that within 90 days, they're going to presume that your intention coming in was exactly that. I mean, there are ways to overcome it, of course, but who wants to face that kind of risk? I was I think I was a chef at Craving Jamaica Cuisine. So I'm not sure what this is saying, but I don't think it's immigration. If an international student doing master and doing research, is there a way to apply for a green card, not just based on doing the master's, but once you get a master's degree, and assuming that you can show, you show that you have the skills to meet the requirements, there may be what's called a national interest waiver, that can allow you to apply for your own green card, especially if, say, you graduated with your master's degree and then you started to work as a researcher. Now, you can't necessarily use the work your school work to get a green card. You have to show real world experience, when it comes to applying for the national interest waiver. Can I work with EAD approval notice? No, unless it's an extension. So if you're renewing an old EAD, that's a work permit, then you can apply, and you apply to renew it, and you get the receipt notice. There's an automatic extension in there of 540 days, but that's the only time you could use the receipt notice to get your driver's license again, and to be able to show that you have the permission to work here. As an asylee, how can I apply for a travel document? So there's special forms that you have to apply for. I'm a PR living in the US. My husband is not here and was not successful in getting a visa. Apart from filing for him to get a green card, could I get a work permit for him? No, so you wouldn't be able to just get a work permit for him. He has to go through the embassy. So there's no way for people outside of the US to get work permits. He would have to get a work visa to come to the US. A US born kid can apply a green card for parents when they are 21. So to file the green card to parents, does the kid need to be under a payroll? So that's right. A US citizen child who is age 21 or older can apply for their parents to get the green card. However, keep in mind, now you ask, do they have to have a payroll? As in, I think, do they need to have a job? Um, they are required to show income, show sufficient income based on their household size, to support their parent or parents over the next 10 years or until they become a US citizen. But if the 21-year-old can't meet that income requirement, there are ways to get a joint sponsor to apply that they can show sufficient income. Of course, that person has to have the legal status here, a permanent residence or a U.S. citizenship. When I enter the receipt number to check the status, it says our records show nothing is outstanding at this time. What should you do? So you'll have to wait until you get something from them. How does employer sponsorship work? So it just depends on what employment category you fall into. But here is a little summary. So if there are three categories, right? You have EB1, you have EB2, and you have EB3. It's the category you fall in is going to be dependent on, do you have extraordinary ability, or are you a manager, or do you have an executive, or do you have any are you a professor, right, in a school? EB2 is going to be dependent on your profession, and it's also going to be dependent on your level of education because it involves a national interest waiver. EB3 also has some subcategories, but this is the category where many people who don't necessarily, where you can either have a degree, or be a professional, or you can not, you can be an unskilled laborer. The goal is that they do have to show that you fit within those categories and they have a permanent need for you. The employer has to do this. So sometimes I get questions from individuals saying the employer really wants to hire me, but the employer tells me I need to have a work permit. And the thing that's wrong with that is that the employer, no, sometimes I'm able to find a way for my clients to get a work permit, regardless of, despite the employer, right? But then the in employment-based petition, the employer needs to be 99% involved in this process. They initiate the process at Department of Labor. They take the steps to file the petition. If you qualify, you're here and you qualify, your immigrant visa number is available, and the DOL approves what's called a labor certification, then you can file an adjustment of status and even get a work permit to start working early. But most of the process is going to be dependent on the actions of the employer. Now, there are some categories where you can self-petition, like the national interest waiver, but it's going to depend. So there are different categories. So I just off the top of my head, I can count about 6 or 7 categories under employment-based green cards. If a same-sex person gets married and she filed joint taxes with her child's father, can I still file paperwork for the green card? So in order to file joint tax returns, you have to be married. If you're not married, you can't file joint tax returns. So there's a serious problem there in that you can't be married to somebody who's already married. So I think that needs some clarification there, because they wouldn't be filing joint taxes if they had a parent, co-parenting relationship. All right. So thanks so much for your patience, everyone. I'm trying to get to all of your questions, so bear with me. I have an ITIN. How can I go about getting a work permit? ITINs can't get you the work permit. So ITINs are for purposes of filing your taxes if you don't have your SSN. Can you explain the 3-year marriage to a U.S. citizen and have a 2-year green card? So it sounds like you may be considering citizenship at 3 years, getting married to 3 years of marriage to a citizen living in the same household as a citizen. you can apply for citizenship. Your 2 year may be pending. You can still go ahead and apply for citizenship, but they're not going to process the citizenship until they process the 2 year green card. Reside in Mexico in emergency, my baby born there, can apply for asylum in USA. So it's going to depend. So asylum, having a baby alone in the US is not going to qualify you. But if you have any fear of persecutions, you said you lived in Mexico, you would have to show that you can't return to your current country, you can't return to Mexico, and so you need to stay here. But having a baby alone is not going to allow you to apply for asylum. Is it hard to file VAWA than marriage-based interview? So it's not a matter of if one is harder than the other. The question is it necessary for you to file the VAWA over the marriage-based? If you're married and you trust your spouse to go through the process with you, obviously marriage-based is going to be the path for you because your spouse isn't abusive. And I highly suggest if you're being mistreated and you do not trust your spouse, VAWA is going to be the option. VAWA is usually something that's not optional. It is something that you must do to be able to preserve your immigration status and move forward and build your life here without the mistreatment. How long is VAWA taking to send work permits? So I'd say 8 months to 12 months. Uh, right. So I'm in the USA to attend college, play soccer. Is it possible to get a green card? So not just by attending college or even playing soccer. However, if you have reached a point in your in your soccer playing career where you are showing extraordinary ability in your area, then that it could be possible for you to apply for your own green card. Also, if there is an organization that wants to petition for you based on your talent as a soccer player, that could be an option as well. So it's possible, but not just based on attending college and playing soccer. Where's your office? So we're located in Boca Raton and Delray Beach. These are two offices in Florida. We represent clients all over the country and the world. So no matter where you are, we can assist you. Just give us a call or go to the link in the bio. How long after my interview before the embassy to send my courier authorization certificate? So I would say it could be a few days to maybe 2 weeks max. How long does it, and when I say 2 weeks, is if everything went well without a hitch. If they ask you for more information, of course, it's going to take longer. How long does it take when apply for citizenship? 2 months to 8 months is around the average time I'm seeing. Can a reconsideration that was denied be appealed? So it's going to depend. So it's going to depend on a lot of facts here. It may be able to be appealed, and you can also take it to federal court if necessary. Just depends on what's the best course of action. What's the basis for the denial? Sometimes it may just mean that you have to reapply altogether, maybe with whatever evidence that was missing. I-130, I-485 together interview was scheduled in USCIS. It's normal. What is the meaning? Means they probably have some questions. So get ready, be prepared for your interview. Because right now they're waiving interviews. So if they're calling you in for an interview, it means that they have questions. And it just depends on what your facts are. But this is why it's very, very important to submit a solid application at the beginning. When can I apply for citizenship if I was a resident since 2021? So 5 years if you're married to a US citizen and currently residing with a citizen, 3 years. Applied for adjustment of status for my husband who has DACA how long are they taking right now? So adjustment of status based on marriage base is under a year, about a little under a year to a year. F1 student here, I have an issue with re-entering because my visa is expired. So in this case, when you leave the country, so you have status here, but when you leave the country, you have to go back to the embassy to get your visa. Otherwise, you may run into trouble coming back into the country. Can you travel with one travel document to different countries, or do you need a different one? Yeah, one travel document, unless they create, for example, DACA. When DACA recipients want to travel, they get a very specific document that states the details of their travel, where they're going, why they're going, how long they have to go for. So it depends. But if you're going for adjustment of status and you're applying for the travel document, you can use that travel document for multiple entries. How long is USCIS taking to approve I-130 of US citizens for parents? If your parents are outside of the US, then 9 months to 12 months. And that's right. I do pray he doesn't win, and it's gonna take us getting involved as well. So US citizens, we need to be involved. Do I have to take my spouse to N400 interview if I-751 has not been removed? So if they instructed you to take your spouse, now you have N400 interview, I would say at least have your spouse available. If they have not mentioned your spouse should be present or specifically instructed you to have your spouse available, make sure your spouse is still around. If it's even for them to wait in the parking lot, because what will happen is N400, but they haven't. N400 is citizenship, by the way. I-751 is a 2-year green card. And before you can get the citizenship, they need to give you the 10-year, go from the 2-year to the 10-year. It's called removing conditions. And so before they'll even put you through the citizenship test, they're going to evaluate that I-751 permanent residence removal of conditions. In that case, it's dependent on your spouse. And if your spouse doesn't show up, that can be a negative. So if the officer said, where's your spouse? You can let them know your spouse is right outside the door and see if they'll let him in. My wife got 221G. What is it? And make sure you're, by the way, I'm not your attorney, can't give you personalized legal advice, but while I'm at this information, while you have your spouse waiting, make sure your spouse has their valid ID, make sure you have all your documents ready, and prepare as if it's going to be an I-751 interview. My wife got 221G, 221G. What is it? So if she applied for a visa, then that may have been the basis for denial. Offhand, I believe that's if she doesn't have strong ties to her home country. So it may be that, but I'd have to check. Can I travel on approved advance parole if my VAWA is still pending? Yes, you can. No, keep in mind, I'm not your attorney. I don't know your case. So make sure you check with your attorney about whether it's safe for you to travel. Generally, that's what it's there for. But is it advisable for you to do that? That's the question. Um, all right. Here we go again. So dear attorney, how long for 36? I think this is 360 to be approved. From the date you file, from the date you file. So attorney, how long 360 to be approved for the date you file? What are expected RFE based on VAWA? So I would say 2.5 to 3 years for the approval. You do get benefits while you wait. So you get your prima facie determination letter that can help you with benefits on your driver's license, depending on the state you're in. You can get your work permit if you've applied for adjustment of status at the same time as the VAWA petition, and your travel document if you've applied for adjustment of status. When it comes to requests for evidence, You have to make sure that you are meeting all the requirements, but this is where it's very important to be represented by an attorney, because um, meeting the requirements at the forefront is very important. If you miss a step, you miss a requirement, you're bound to get an RFE asking for that one thing that you missed. Just entered the country 3 months ago, got my green card through my son. I have an emergency back home. Can I go back this soon? So yes, once you have your green card, you can travel. Just don't be outside of the country for 6 consecutive months, but you can travel on your green card. Just make sure you have your green card with you along with your passport. Hello, I have a question. I've approved VAWA since 20, I think 2023. Now I have to apply for a 485 and I-601 inadmissibility waiver. Then is my priority date from VAWA used, or should I be in a different line? So there's no, when it comes to processing the I-485 and the I-601, they're not looking, the priority date is for the petition. It's not for the I-485 and the I-601. Now, if for the I-485, if you are trying to determine whether your priority date is current to apply for the I-485, you are going to look at the priority date on the VAWA petition to determine how long it's going to take you to apply. So, for example, if you're the spouse of a permanent resident, or you're the son or daughter of a permanent resident, then that priority date is going to be relevant to determine whether it's time to apply for adjustment of status. But this is where it's very important to get legal representation, because remember, the information I'm giving is very general. It's not personalized legal advice. You don't want to make mistakes here because mistakes lead to delays and denials. So you can always go to the link in the profile, schedule your appointment. I believe I have created even on TikTok. So the platforms have different features, and I think somewhere on here is an intake form. So if you want to, let me see if I can pin it. Okay, so I think I just pinned it. If you want to, on TikTok, as soon as you see it, so fill out a short form to hear back and get more information. If you want to fill out that form, go ahead, fill out that form, and then we can get back in touch with you. So we'll get your contact information. We'll get back to you on it. So I see a countdown here. It's my first time using this intake. It's a nice feature here. Let me see if I can get it back. Okay, so I'm gonna pin it again on TikTok. So it's not a feature on the rest of the platforms. For the rest of the platforms, go to the link in the profile, go to the link in the description of the video, and then click the link, go to the website, and there's a form. You can fill out the form if you want us to contact you. TikTok, you can do the same thing. Go to link in profile once this form comes off the screen, or you can click on this form right now and fill out the information. So I'm gonna pin it one more time for those of you who want to enter your information. So it gives like 30 seconds to fill out the form. All right. Got VAWA fingerprints yesterday. I'd include only I-360, I-485, only not I-131765. So they usually use the I-485 for the I-131 and the I-765. So don't worry about that. So, and then I count usually 8 months to 12 months from the date of filing. Good day. Do you do consulting on Saturdays? So as of right now, no, but we will definitely make announcements when we're doing consults on Saturdays. Thanks so much, AD. Do you do consults? Okay, so I see the same question there. So not right now. So we do Mondays through Fridays. What you can do, Go to the link in the profile and you'll be able to see a button where you can schedule your own appointment. You have the flexibility of looking at available dates for me and also attorney Bria. And you can choose either one of us, our schedules, and sign up for a consultation that could possibly work on Mondays through Fridays. How long do you think I can take? So I-485, I would say it can range so a year to a year and a half. I'm waiting for consular interview for EB2 NIW in Ecuador. I'm kind of impatient. My priority date was July 2022, and the bulletin visa is already 6 months ahead of my date. Still waiting. So when they're ready, they look at the priority date when they're ready to process your application. But then guess what? It's not counted the interview is not a part of that. The time they take to schedule the interview. And right now I'm seeing a year to 2 years to get that interview. So it is frustrating. It's quite frustrating even for my clients to have to wait that time. My marriage base, I'm about to file, just went for my interview last Tuesday for I-485. They gave me 30 days to file for VAWA. I've questioned what happens if I take more than 30 days to file. So what will happen is you face the likelihood of a denied I-485, and it means you have to refile everything all over again. So it doesn't mean you lose your eligibility for VAWA. It just means that you wouldn't be able to transfer your I-485 with your work permit, with your travel document over to the VAWA process. Because I'm going to give you some context here for everybody else. Whenever you're applying for a VAWA, you apply, if you want the green card at the same time, you apply for the adjustment of status at the same time, which is the I-485 form. And along with the I-485 form, you can apply for a work permit and a travel document. And so when you're doing the marriage-based process, it's the same thing. You file the marriage petition plus the adjustment of status, work permit, travel document. When you are trying to switch from the marriage petition to a VAWA petition, you can bring your I-485 work permit and travel document that you had attached to the marriage process to your VAWA process, but you have to act fast, or else you can be denied the adjustment of status, and then you'd have to pay, you'd have to apply for everything all over again. The good news, though, is that now if you apply for VAWA, the I-485 there's no longer a fee that comes with the I-485 if you're applying for VAWA. So that's good news. There were fee increases, but there are also decreases in fees. Can I adjust a status for marriage-based green card with parole? I got from ICE detention. It depends. As long as it's not conditional parole, then adjustment of status could be possible. And in addition to that, did they move you into removal proceedings already? That could complicate it. Can I file my taxes if I have social, but I don't have my work permit, but my daughter's filing for me? Yes, you can file taxes with your social. So my friend has master's in finance and banking from overseas and a little over 5 years of experience in the field. She came here with F1, but attended 1 year of 3 and dropped. Can she change qualifying? So if you want to apply for national interest waiver, you cannot overstay. Any employment based, anything you're applying for that you're looking at your you want to get it through your talents, through your career, through your education, through your employer. Do not overstay your visa, because once you overstay, you have killed your chance of applying for those. So in this case, just by the overstay alone, it's very unlikely that that is going to be the path for your friend. How long the T visa take? It can take anywhere from 6 months to 18 months. 12 months is the most common time I'm seeing decisions. I'm thankful for all you do. You're a great person, lawyer. Thanks so much, Jill. I appreciate that. I needed that this week. Good day, Ms. Sherifa. Do you have, okay, so I already answered that. How much is the current fee for filing a green card, including the combo card? So it's going to depend on through what means you're applying. Uh, so this is the question about traveling, countries you're going to travel to first before going home. You should definitely talk to your attorney about that. That's very specific, and you don't want to get it wrong. Um, Good day. Um, how long after filing 5 months ago to receive prima facie? So I'd say 3 to 6 months. Oh, thanks so much, Donna. I appreciate it. Don't see the link. Okay, so I'm so sorry. The link for the lead intake form was only on TikTok. So I was trying out this little nifty feature on TikTok. If you want to fill out the form, go to the link in the profile and go to the website, and a form will come up. Fill out that form with your information, and we'll get in touch with you. When a person get a work permit, is it connected to the green card? Yes, because you're applying when you get the work permit, you're applying for the green card at the same time. How long after filing? So prima facie, about 3 to 6 months. I told you last week. Okay, so got the work permit, but he's gonna be scheduled for the interview. So yeah, sometimes they do say it's ready for interview. That can sit there for a year. So you really just have to wait for the letter. Call them if in doubt. How long does a USCIS take to answer an expedited case? Let's say about a week or two. If you don't hear back from them, call to check on the status of it. Thanks so much, Moha. Um, so, question is, are all J1 visa applicants subject to the 212E? I have a friend who came on J1 visa, but they weren't sponsored by government. They pay all their own fees. So, not everybody, not all J1s are subject to the 212E. So I believe the 212D5A parole based on 212D5A does allow you to adjust status here. So it is parole and it can allow you to adjust status if you qualify. How is it possible for me and my spouse and kids to file asylum? Do you do asylum? We absolutely do asylum. Let's talk about whether you qualify and get started. How possible can F1 stay in the US after OPT without getting sponsor? So it wouldn't be possible. You'd have overstayed your time if you don't figure out a way to get the green card. How long for approval of I-485? So I would say 12 months to a year and a half. And I'm going to answer one more, and then I have to go. I applied I-485 with work permit and travel doc on March 29, 2024. Should I expect a fast approval? I did biometrics, and my case is actively being reviewed twice. I'm a U.S. citizen spouse. So they are moving relatively quickly. So you can, expect your case to be resolved in anywhere from 10 months to 12 months, could be less, could be more. It's hard to tell here, but just the fact they're saying actively reviewed, it can sit there for a year saying that. But in general, these cases are taking less than a year now. All right. Thanks everyone for your time. And yes, Nico, I am from Jamaica, so Mobe, Jamaica. All right. So to get in touch, go to the link in the profile. Or go to the link in the description of this video. You will see a link tree. You can schedule your own appointment. Do that quickly because our schedules fill up fast and it is really busy. So schedule your appointment. If you want to talk to someone first, go to the website, the button for the website, And you'll see our contact information. There'll be more than staff, there are scheduling coordinators that are more than happy to help you to schedule your appointment. That is a way I'm going to know how I can help you. I help immigrants from all walks of life. And I help you even if you're here without your papers. There are multiple options available, and I do a very detailed review to be able to determine which option could work for you. So get in touch. We want to help you. All right. Have a great one. Have a good weekend. Bye bye.